Well, you probably gathered from the thumbnail that you clicked on that I'm going to talk about UFC 249 getting canceled. But on top of which, I'm going to tell you exactly why it got canceled. And I can pretty much guarantee you, unless you've dug pretty deep in the internet, you don't know yet. And it should infuriate you if you're a UFC fan or a person who just values common decency, because an indecent person was responsible for this indecent action that caused UFC 249 to get canceled. But before I get into that, if you came over from TikTok, you already know who I am. I'm Jesse on Fire. If you did not, let me just give you a preface of what you can expect from my channel. A lot of this, me ranting about things that I'm watching or whatever, lots of UFC, stories about fights, stories about girls, advice on how to control those situations and get outcomes that you desire. But again, today, we're going to jump into the topic that I just outlined. But before we do that, let me just ask you, if you like the content, please subscribe and ring the bell, comment, share, like, all of those things. But I'm genuinely asking you, if you like the content, please subscribe, ring the bell. If I start making bad content that you don't want to hear about anymore, just unsubscribe. But for now, subscribe. Please, give me a shot. I deserve it. Anyway, so UFC 249, I assumed, had been canceled because Rose Namajunas came out that 2 people in her family died of COVID, okay? Very tragic, obviously. I love Rose. She's my favorite female fighter in any weight class. She's awesome. I'm very, very sorry for her and her family. Awful. So I assumed that we can't go on with the show now. Like, this is, first of all, the second main event fighter to pull out. Khabib first, now Rose. And she's pulling out because she had deaths in the family from coronavirus. That's a PR nightmare if we go on with the show. Everybody's been telling us to stop. Now, one of our fighters is out because 2 people died from coronavirus. I would completely understand that. And I am always on Dana's side. So if Dana decided to go forward, I'm on his side. If he decided to cancel it, I'm on his side. There are very few instances where you're going to hear me bag on Dana. If he ever gets bagged on this channel, he earned it for sure. There's no one who is totally immune to me coming at him. But I promise you, if it's Dana, he earned it. I respect him as an entrepreneur more than any other person in the history of entrepreneurship. The guy is exactly what I respect in business. He breaks all the rules. He's exactly himself. I love that guy. I would go work for him in 1 second. Literally 1 second. Drop everything in my life, move my entire family wherever he was. 1 second. Anyway, that's what I assumed was the reason that UFC 249 got canceled. It's not. So the reason it got canceled is because Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who, by the way, when he was the mayor in San Francisco, had an affair with his chief of staff's wife, okay? So Gavin Newsom called the CEO of Disney and told them to shut down UFC 249 because Disney owns ESPN, and ESPN is partnered with UFC. So, to put this in perspective, UFC 249 was going to happen at an Indian casino that is in the California territory, but it's on sovereign land, sovereign tribal land, not California, not under California jurisdiction, not under the jurisdiction of the California Athletic Commission, not at all under the jurisdiction of Gavin Newsom, and also not a risk to anyone because there were only going to be like 50 total people there who all were going to sign waivers. All of them were going to get tested for coronavirus in advance, and then they're all completely healthy, and then they were going to go back to their respective quarantines. Okay, so what are we doing? What possible reason does Gavin Newsom have to step in to do that? I'll answer that in a second, but first, let me just talk to you about Gavin Newsom and what kind of person could have an affair with their chief of staff's wife. Okay, so if you're unfamiliar with the chief of staff job, basically, you are on that person's hip. If you're the governor's chief of staff or the mayor's chief of staff or the president's chief of staff, you are literally next to them from morning until night, except when that governor or mayor is sleeping with your wife, apparently. Like, the kind of person who could look in that guy's face every day, have him running his schedule, high-five him when they do things that, things go their way, and then be sleeping with that guy's wife is a psychopath. Like, literally, I mean, this is not like I'm not a Republican. Like, as a matter of fact, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I don't get into the politics stuff like that. I make my decisions on individual basis about policy and about people. Now, there are certain things that you can do where you can never come back, okay? Period. You put a hand on a kid, done, okay? 20 years goes by. You are still in that category with me, right? You have an affair with your chief of staff's wife, done, okay? There's no redeeming yourself from that. Like, you are a person who is capable of that. Okay? So let me tell you guys a story, since, stories are part of this channel. So when I was in college, I was in a fraternity. And for those of you who are not in fraternities or have never been in a fraternity, whatever, if you are pre-fraternity, I highly, highly suggest that you join one. It is the best thing ever. All of my best friends in the world are my friends that I made in my fraternity. So in my fraternity, there was a guy who joined the fraternity with his best friend from home, okay? They had been friends since they were like 10 years old. They came to college together, they joined the fraternity together, right? So they were dating two best friends. So these guys were in our fraternity together, dating best friends in another sorority that lived in the same house, okay? So long story short, one of the guys was sleeping with the other guy's girlfriend, okay? Like, they would literally be sleeping in the same house, and they would like text or whatever, and they would sneak out of each other's, out of those bedrooms, and then go meet in another room in the house to do whatever, okay? So when we found out about that, like, cause the guy found out, we completely disowned this guy. Like, he wasn't even like, there was like, I think maybe like a year or two later, he came to the fraternity house. It was as if he literally did not exist. Like, he was standing, like, he thought like maybe, enough time has passed. And he came by, because he knew he wasn't allowed to come there at all. 2 years later, he comes by, and like, not a single person said a single word to this guy. Like, you're done, dude. Like, you're done. That is a bridge too far. You can never come back from that, okay? And Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, and he's that guy, okay? He's gonna run for president. That's the whole thing. I want you guys to remember that he is going to run for president. You need to remember this video and these two stories. That guy is the kind of person that would sleep with his chief of staff's wife and would cancel UFC 249 out of spite because Dana did a Donald Trump rally, okay? You think that that's unrelated? Do you believe that that's unrelated? That Trump having Dana on his stage at a rally is unrelated to Gavin Newsom calling Disney and having them cancel UFC 249? Because I can tell you right now, if it was Harvey Weinstein 3 years ago who was putting on an event, same exact situation, Gavin Newsom ain't making that call because Harvey Weinstein donates to Democrat politicians, okay? Now, if this sounds like I'm getting political, I'm not, because there are a dozen, like a dozen. There are tons and tons and tons of Republicans that are exactly the same, where they would do one thing if it was one person and another if it's another because of their political affiliations. So it's not that. But Gavin Newsom, like, this was repulsive. Like, we need sports. It's the only sport where you could actually put an event on like that and only have 50 people there, right? Like, literally, think about it. Like, we have no sports. You can't do football, can't do basketball, can't do baseball, because you just can't do those sports. This is a one-on-one sport. All you need is the camera crews, the setup guys. Literally, you can do it with 50 people. And then they're going to go back to quarantine. What on earth, what possible reason could you have for calling the CEO of Disney? I mean, why? Like, why? Yeah. Protecting the public, sure, pal. Sure. There's a lot more I could go into about that particular guy. I'm just going to leave it there. But the bottom line is, about UFC 249, it's postponed. So now, at least we'll get, Khabib versus Tony instead of, listen, I was very excited for Justin Gaethje versus Ferguson. By the way, I went back and watched a couple of Justin Gaethje's PFL or World Series of Fighting fights. Oh my gosh. Everyone should go back and watch those. Like, he's an animal, dude. He's an animal. But it confirmed everything that I thought about him as a fighter. Like, I actually guess that he has kind of tightened it up. If he tried to fight Conor McGregor the way that he fought in those fights, he would, I mean, he couldn't do it. Like, he would get annihilated. But even still, watching those, I was blown away by how impressive he was as just gridiron workhorse fighter, and just titanic power. Like, he chopped this guy's legs down in one of the fights. It was amazing. Anyway, bottom line though is there's not a lot of surgical kind of creativity to Justin Gaethje's game. Like, he is very good at, standard Muay Thai roundhouse kicks. He's very good at boxing. He's an excellent wrestler, but there's nothing original about him. Like, you watch like guys like Sean O'Malley and Conor McGregor, and those guys are throwing, and Tony Ferguson, they're throwing angles and things at you that you just can't train for. You just cannot train for that stuff. You get a really great Muay Thai fighter that's about the same height and weight as Justin Gaethje, and you can train for him. You can really prep well for Justin Gaethje. There is no one who can prep you for Conor McGregor, Tony Ferguson, Sean O'Malley, no one. And as a matter of, like, you get guys that come in and try to mimic that, they're going to be doing it in slow motion. So, when you're training for someone, for a fight or for a game or whatever, you want to be running with a parachute on your back so that when you go for real, the parachute's off, right? So, like, you want to be training for faster than what you're going to face, not get used to this speed and then it's the same thing, just much faster when you get in there, right? So that's why it's so hard to beat those guys. They're so good. Anyway, but we'll probably get to see Gaethje versus Conor now, which is a very exciting fight, but Conor's going to run through him. I mean, straight up, I'll tell you that right now. Conor is going to run through Justin Gaethje. That's just a fact. I will throw fact on that, actually. And again, I have another video up. You guys should watch it. Matchups make fights, because I think Gaethje will beat Khabib. And I think Khabib beats Ferguson and beats Conor. So, it is what it is. But, yeah, that's what I got. So, it's exciting that we get to see Tony and Khabib. It's exciting that we'll get to see Conor and Gaethje. And Chael Sonnen made an excellent point. You know what? I'm going to make another video about this. But Conor may not be fighting Gaethje. And I'm going to make a video about why right now. Oh, before I go, again, please subscribe, ring the bell, etc. Comment, if you like and comment, that is what gets it going. Like, that's what gets my videos going. Please do that.